This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, the time being 4:45, I'd like to call this meeting of August 31st, 2023 to order. We'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our candidate that was going to come tonight is rescheduled to the 21st. So Cindy should be coming at 5. We'll jump right into the minutes. The approved corrected minutes of 8:3. The first page on the bottom paragraph. Selectman Scanlon explained the landowner had mentioned when the DPW is plowing.
Don't have any new minutes?
Here's not.
I'll make a motion to approve the corrected minutes of Thursday, August 3rd, 2023.
Ruggles second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Voting on the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think this is a perfect time to bring up on the corrected minutes on August 3rd. I know we just approved them, but I also want to make a statement on it because they're on page 1 of 4 where we say the DPW is plowing. And I know I made a statement prior to that about, they said that they are pushing the fence off the footings. Also want to make a correction on my part because I had made mention to that and failed to remember that there was also an accident off of Cedar Street coming up, the car coming off of Cedar Street that went into the fence about 4 or 5 years ago that pushed the fence, that pushed the off of the pedestal, which is in direct line off of Cedar Street. So not necessarily the highway department pushing snow in that direction off of that. No, we can't revisit minutes, but I just want to make it going forward.
We can revisit minutes.
Well, what was said in the meeting was said. We can't undo what was said.
And you just said it in this meeting right now, so it should be reflected in the minutes.
Right, so it's reflected in this minutes now that it's corrected, because it was very clear that there was an accident on, off of Cedar Street going into that fence, not necessarily the DPW's error of plowing. Okay. No other minutes. Go ahead.
I was going to say I could do my report if you want.
Okay, that's fine. Yep. Do that.
Everyone should have gotten a copy of my report email, and there should be a hard copy in your file. So several action items for the board to consider. The first, just to follow up on the parking behind Casamigos. Kevin, as I mentioned before, measured and says we can pick up, he believes, an additional 9 parking spaces. Snow would be handled. There was a question about snow removal. Snow would be handled just like it's being handled now, which is plowed and removed. And he did get an estimate from R&D Paving for $17,500 to pave that back area. I'm bringing it back to the board to see how you'd like to move forward on this, or if you'd like to move forward on this.
Board? Anyone?
I'd like to move forward. We need parking. That said, whatever kind of arrangement that we make with Casa Amigos has to be in writing and length of term and what have you. But I'm a yes. I want more parking.
Okay.
So the owner of the rest of the parking lot out there wants us to pay X amount of dollars to him per year.
He really doesn't have anything specific right now. What he did say was he was hoping to get 1 or 2 parking spaces designated for himself, and the rest would be for the town. He did talk about wanting to have some kind of arrangement like we've had with the Sarnos relative to the taxes. I did have Leanne take a look at that, and it would be minimal to virtually nothing in terms of the benefit of the taxes they'd be paying. So it's not, and I don't have that number in front of me, but he was very much open to whatever the board might want to do. Specifically, again, he was interested in keeping at least 1 to 2 parking spaces for himself. He did ask about the other, but I haven't really done anything with that until I found out from the board if you want to move forward and investigate this, or if it's just a no.
So the 9 are for the 9 for us. So it's 9
There-
additional spaces that in
7,
Exclu-
because he would like 1 or 2.
2. Okay,
Right.
that's clarity.
So you'd pick up
Okay.
7.
Boy, I can't see the 9 additional spaces, and I've been back there several times in the past couple of weeks. But nevertheless, I'm an absolute no. From what I've seen, we're not really going to pick up any parking unless we have a lot of signs, unless we put hourly limits on it, unless the police are there all the time. People park back there wherever they want. I sent you pictures. I mean, they're parking right in front of the line that they take water out of the river. Evidently, it's discontinued, but there's still a sign there that says no parking. I don't think it's worth it to pick up a few spaces there. It's not worth it for us to go to the expense of paving it, maintaining it, which is plowing and fixing any repairs in the asphalt. And it's going to be a nightmare to police. We can pick up those spaces on Main Street somewhere. It's a nightmare.
I would suggest that we use that as permit parking
For
for the people
Overnight
that have
parking only.
permits that are in the lot across the street.
So tenants in the buildings there that aren't part of the person who owns it, there's other tenants there already parked there. So are we gonna move them out of those spaces that
They
they're
have-
already
As
using?
long as they have a permit, that wouldn't be a problem.
Well, they are tenants in buildings that this person doesn't own. So
That are currently parked across the street with a permit.
No, they parked there anyway.
Well, then I'm suggesting that
Right.
we talk to the police department. We have rules, regulations, and laws.
but what I'm saying is these tenants can go get permits if that's what's going to be required, because they're going to have to park, right? They're already using those spaces. So if they don't
How
use
many?
their spaces, where are they going to go?
How many?
The only spaces I've seen empty are on the property that we don't own. And like I said, I've sent pictures to the board. They park all along the river and make it almost impossible for you to go around.
I've seen them park haphazardly.
So
myself.
I don't see us picking up any spaces.
The problem would be enforcement, because once you pave it, then you have the municipal parking, which everybody calls the T-hop parking. And that would be the overflow, and that's what they would be using as the overflow during the day and into the night. So it would be enforcement. So even if you used it for a ticketed, which I think, I love that suggestion, to just have it as a ticketed only parking, I would be in favor of that, but it would have to be heavily enforced. That would,
You already have tenants
Mhm.
there. So what are we gaining?
We still have to reach out to the other parking lot that we're going forward. I hope that that's still a viable resource. Go ahead, John.
So when I've driven through there, I've seen it was full. Every time it's full. So I can't see how we're gaining any. The other part was brought to my attention by a resident that why is the town of Tilton paving a parking lot for an apartment building that they should be providing parking for? It's individual business that, and they're not providing just, if they're all, for always municipal parking, anybody in town can park there. That's one thing, but if it's permitted specifically for residents that live there, why are we paying to pave it? Because it's private parking. So that's the thing. And like I said, every time I've driven through there, it's been full, whether it's paved or not. So if we pay $17,000 to pave something, we're not actually gaining anything unless we specifically make some type of deal as to how many will be always open for municipal parking, because we should be providing parking for the general public if we're using tax money to pay for it.
Mhm.
I think there's an ordinance that you're supposed to be supplying a certain amount of parking spaces.
Well, it would tie into the parking lot that we already exist,
That's what I'm saying. Is it public or
which
is it
would be
private
general
use?
parking.
But we don't police it. It's always full except when Tilton House is closed.
And police it. And
And that's really general parking.
It's
Those
general
are people
parking,
coming to the town of Tilton,
but we listed it as general parking.
right? So
Permit.
Right.
well, that permit thing was just a spitball deal I threw out. Doesn't have to be that, but we have a lack of parking downtown, and I want to promote downtown. And getting extra parking in the downtown area is one way of doing that
Over a 10-year period.
over a 10-year period. We have stickered placard parking across the street that we pay for now, or that we own outright. We did have some of those with the Sarnos.
Thanos, correct.
But that, of course, is null and void at this point. I'm curious as to what is going on with those parking places. Are they just open?
hmm
How do people know not to park there? I haven't been back.
I walked back there today just to see what was going on because I
Mhm.
haven't heard anything from anyone in terms
Right.
of complaints about no parking. And there are cars parked there. I only saw one car that had a yellow sticker hanging from the, what do you call it, that rear view mirror,
hmm
that it was ticketed parking, but that's all. I didn't see any signs put up or, and they still may be in process, but I haven't seen any changes back
No,
there.
I haven't either.
And I haven't heard any complaints.
No, anybody else?
I'd like to see a more concrete plan, what the parking spaces would be used for and managed before we
In the year,
that term.
in the term. All right. Yep. Agreed, everyone?
Works for me. I'd
So,
like to progress somehow, even
yep.
if it ends up being no.
So you want me to pursue this?
Pursue it, and then with the,
I want to go on record as being a no. Waste of time.
with the proper term,
Gotcha.
cost,
Okay.
what will be the return on the taxes and so on.
Okay.
More details. Go ahead, Scott.
Just in thinking about it extensively and going back there a few times and obviously picking up pizza a couple of times and seeing it, I'm personally not convinced at this point in time the extent of going all the way into that would be the best for the municipality. But would we benefit right now from the space that is ours, where we don't have to have a tax deal, et cetera? Would that be one where we would look at, can we pave that? Can we permit that? It already belongs to us. We don't have to worry about. Just thinking that those are the
I-
ones. And
I-
if we are going to start thinking about possibly, developing and making the riverfront more attractive at some point in time, that may be the start for the space and get cleanup around those spaces. Just something I've thought about on and off for the last couple of months.
And that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
What we own.
Yeah.
Pave.
Correct.
To mark and to permit.
Yeah.
That will keep tenants off in those buildings off the main street, and it'll keep patrons of the commercial properties out of spaces that tenants should be in.
Yeah, and then starting to think about, as we go down line, is it going to benefit us and the businesses to expand out and be able to do that public-private partnership for the rest of that lot in terms of how it might play out? But, just our space now, and maybe it's one that we couple in when we go to pave that whole lot, that then that becomes part of that paving plan for that whole lot.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
So I believe that's what Kevin's plan was
Okay.
this year, is to pave what the town owns. And then the additional would be those other parking spaces. But if I hear what the directive is, you want me just to get some more details and come back.
Right. That's what,
And at this point, I would say that I will do that, but it will not happen, that extension will not happen this year because we're running out of time. So he'll do what he's going to do for the town, but that additional will not happen this year. Okay.
okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to put you on hold, Jeannie, and we have Cindy Brockway from the Tilton Island Historical Landscape Plan, and she's going to present what the proposed historical landscape plan based on feedback from the selectmen. It'll take a minute to get the, yeah, not a problem. We do have some members of the audience, and I believe maybe, no, nobody online yet.
I know, I always.
All this expensive audio, and we don't have one on this one. Yeah, you want it, you just turn your chairs around. You can just look at the big screen back there.
While they're setting up, I thought you'd like to know, well, we've only had one response to the Tilton Island survey. And the comments were they would like to see more trees, better lighting, additional seating, and making the train easier to walk on for those handicapped people with wheelchairs, walkers, and canes to have a smooth path or to wheel on without any risk of falling. And absolutely no smoking or vaping. Signs everywhere, including the boardwalk.
Read it. No.
And they have hard copies in front of them.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So as we go through this is truly something that I believe very firmly in, that I am here as a facilitator for this process, that this is your park and your plan and your vision. And my job is to help you to realize that vision and to help this project move forward with thoughtfulness and with some serious thinking about where you really want to go. But please just go ahead and make as many comments as you can. You will not offend me. And there's the way to get to the final plan is for all of us to work on this together. So this is our plan rather than my plan. Again, here's David's professional survey that he did and the detail that we saw. And so this is really the existing conditions that are in the park right now. And as you see, the bridge is closed, so the park is not being used right at the moment. Again, we looked at some of these historical views, and many of your comments from our last meeting were this balance between leaving the park as it is and fixing the bridge so that everybody can get to it, or bringing back some of these historic elements that had been in the park beforehand. So that's part of the line that I've tried to walk since we last met, in trying to understand what we might reasonably be able to incorporate from the past, what we need for today and for contemporary users to be able to enjoy the space, and how little intervention we can do in order to be able to achieve all of that. So this master plan, again, I've got this larger version and the more detailed version. We're going to go down to the more detailed version today, with the exception that since you were talking about parking when I came in, I recognize that one of the challenges in this park is providing accessible parking for those folks that have trouble walking. And it's not possible to provide it on the island itself, but I did look at these two green spaces across the way, one next to the railroad bridge on the left side of the plan, and then one near the fountain on the right-hand side of the plan. But there's not enough room unless cars are backing in and out of Main Street to be able to provide any parking there. So figuring out this parking question for accessible parking over the long term will help in the process of making the park more accessible. The other thing I'll tell you is that as I started to look at what improvements could happen in the plan, accessibility for the contractors to do the work is going to be something that we'll have to talk about as well, because that's a challenge. And one option that is just up for discussion at this point is if the bridge does come down to go and be conserved, I'm wondering whether there's the possibility of a temporary construction bridge being put up so that you could get vehicles over to the island, especially the vehicles that might want to do the take care of the big granite blocks along the embankment and so forth, and then that would go away when the conserved bridge comes back again. But that's a problem of management and implementation of whatever we decide to do on the park. But it will definitely be something that'll come up again and again as we try to figure out access for the construction. I have 2 copies of this plan, so this is your first glimpse of it. Then I'm going to show you some pictures, and then we're going to go back to this plan again so that we can have a whole conversation about what's in here. One of the things that I did hear loud and clear from all of you, and I firmly believe this is the right thing, is that we absolutely need to repair this armoring of the embankment, that the erosion that's happening as these blocks have fallen, and then you can see some of the erosion even in the soils here along the banking, is a critical part of at least stabilizing the size of the island that you have now. And if we were to do nothing and you had the bridge and you left it to natural worlds, I think you'd see more and more erosion, especially on this end of the park, as the freshets come and we get some of these extreme rains that we've had even in the past 2 months here. So this is something that you'll see lined out in red on the plan when we go back to the plan. Fixing the bridge, this bridge is the most fanciful, most beautiful bridge that I've seen in a very, very long time, and it's truly a historical asset for you. It is a lot to preserve, but from an engineering standpoint, from a historic preservation standpoint, you gain a lot by being able to preserve this bridge and provide this access if the funding is possible and the means are possible to be able to preserve it as you go along. I also tried to save as many of the existing features that you have here as possible. So rather than come up with a brand new bench design, which is possible, we can do that, I was thinking that you've got 8 benches already in the park that could be painted and conserved and used again. Very usable, they're in very good shape, and those are still stored on the island now. You have some picnic tables, basic design for picnic tables, and around the picnic area where the fireplace is, using those same kinds of picnic tables is another way that you can continue some of the existing features that are in the park and bring those into this new plan as we go along. The same with the light posts, and you're going to see on the plan that I have expanded the number of light posts and I've brought them down into that lower section of the park. But this is the feature that's there. Now, the one thing, these are part of a memorial donation that came in with the gazebo. And there are some down in the when I call it the lower end of the park, I have to look to see north, south, east, and west again. I think this is the eastern end of the park. There are lights there. There's electrical conduit in there for doing those lights. I just wanted to bring those lights into places if we do a path system that would allow you to light the path in dusk and allow the path system to have the right lighting for anybody that wanted to use it. And obviously we talked about the fireplace before, so that you'll see that's still in the plan here as well, and being able to conserve, and that's been repointed, I understand, so it's in good shape, so that could be brought back in as a picnic area. So you'll see those things on the park as well. We could change these light fixtures if we look into the memorial donation that was given and the terms of that donation, if we wanted to do something that was a little more dark sky friendly. And these are light fixtures that produce light that goes out on all sides 360 degrees rather than shining down into the park. So that's, again, a philosophical question for you And these are in good shape, so there's no reason to change them. But if you did want to do something that was more ecologically friendly, then that's another possibility as well. The memorials that are here, I paid a lot of attention to. The gazebo itself, you're going to see on this plan. Everybody remembers the fanciful Victorian gazebo that was here. Again, this gazebo is in nice shape. I do think that it could either stay in the place where it is, but you'll see on this draft plan, I've moved it over to the location where the historic gazebo was, because it sits a little higher on the island topography. The other option is that we could lift this gazebo about 3 feet off the ground, so it had a bigger presence on the landscape as well. And if you painted it white or another color, it would stand out a little bit more, but you don't have to. I'm just at this point sort of presenting options for you on how we can do that balance between existing and past and future. There is a landscape bed with a bench on it that has a memorial inscribed on the bench itself. And in the master plan, you'll see that I've proposed taking those perennial plants that are there, and rather than having them as an isolated separate bed, bring them in around the base of the gazebo, because you've already got some daylilies and some flowers around the gazebo anyway. And if it's possible, again, under the terms of that memorial donation, to just bring them into this more cultivated little piece of the island, I think it would make the maintenance a little bit easier overall in the park. The other thing that you're going to see on this plan is a path. And I know that we talked a little bit at our last meeting about whether we do a path or we don't do a path. And this is something that I've had to work with a lot on all of the historic properties that are under my auspices with the trustees of reservations. And we have an engineered soil that's a 3/8 minus crushed stone that has some clay in it. So it's laid down in lifts and then rolled and packed, and it meets all of the ADA requirements that are there. We often will put steel edging on it so that it stays confined and you don't have the drift of the stone, coming off of the path. And again, that's helped our maintenance tremendously. So this is just a picture of what that looks like. Depending on what the stone is you use, we've chosen to use, in some cases, this sort of gray colored stone. You can also use a browner stone if you want something that looks more like a packed dirt path almost. But you're going to see paths on this plan that I'm about to show you as well. And this is what I had in my head when we were thinking of that. The other thing that we talked about at our last meeting was this removal of the invasives that, again, everybody agreed was a high priority, like the armoring of the embankment around the park itself. And so I have indicated on the plans taking away those invasive plants and then replacing especially the Northfield side of the island, with some native shrubbery. There was a question about whether we used evergreens in there. The shrubs that are there do a pretty good job of hiding the parking lots and the things on the Northfield side that aren't so pretty. So my thought was that we keep with the inkberry, the red twig dogwood, the viburnums, the blueberries that you already have as native shrubs and native plants here that like this habitat and these gravelly soils, and that would be successful in that screening. And then because we have some trees that are struggling and are on the downside end of their maturity, we can prune many of the trees that are there, but I do think it's a good idea for us to start to rejuvenate that overstory tree canopy in the park. And I'm not recommending dramatic changes or great horticultural specimens there. What's in the plan right now is using the red maples and the oaks that are already very happy and have been very successful on the island in the past. And again, they're both native species for you. And with the possibility of adding in some birches. One thing that John had talked about at the last meeting, John Cirillo, was this sort of grove of birches that seemed to have appeared in the 19th century. And I've put a little bit of that back, mostly with the idea that if we did do something at the very tip of the island, it was a chance for ceremonies. If you did want to do weddings, you could have a space there that was a pretty grove to sit in. The birches would be pretty as viewed from Main Street as a feature at that end, but it would also give you a place for a gathering space if you did want to do some ceremonies out there. I put where the fences needed to go, but we talked a little bit about this view from Main Street and how opaque and open this kind of pipe railing is. It's not particularly safe. So this is the safer guardrail that the DOT likes us to be able to use, especially where there's areas where cars are coming and going. but you can see how much it screens the view of the island. So I do think you've also got another fence style down at your waterfront park that's an iron picket fence that's a little bit taller, and that's a possibility. So we should talk a little bit about any particular fence style that you wanted to have, but I'm very conscientious of the fact that you almost don't see this fence when you look at the island, and this one is really heavily armored, so it really does block that view. But again, this is a balance of safety and public safety and individual safety, vehicle safety, and then the aesthetic view across to the island that we have to talk about. So here we are back at the plan again, and let me just walk you through this a little bit so that you can see what's here and then open it up, unless you'd like to just start discussion now. It'll just take a couple more minutes. Okay. So you'll see that here's the bridge that comes over to Main Street. And this path system that you see here pretty much mimics what was there in the 19th century. And we can probably find the remains of those 19th century paths. There was a lily pond right through this whole area, and you can almost see the outline of it with the topography that's here. And I'm not putting the lily pond back again. We're not going to do anything with more water in the island. But this is a perfectly beautiful part of the island. And it's this end down here, north, south, east. So this is the west end of the island. I'm sorry. This is the end down here where there was a beautiful statue at the tip of the island that you really begin to see the island when you come up Main Street. And this is where I thought about that birch grove going. And again, some benches down here. So there was a destination for you to come and walk through this. The one caveat I will say is that there's a good likelihood, because this is the steepest slope that we have. The island's pretty flat, which is really great from an accessible standpoint. We might have to turn this path and come this way a little bit across those grades so that we could meet the slope and the rise for an accessible pathway. But the goal here was that this pathway would be 5 feet wide, sort of a standard public park width. That's what you have at your other waterfront park now. The other waterfront park, you use brick paths and you've used concrete and you've used some stone dust down there. But this is a typical width for a public path that allows 2 people to walk together down the path. We can make that narrower, which saves you money in the path, but it means that 1 person would go at a time through the whole path system. And you'll see that I haven't added a lot of perennials. I haven't added a lot of flowers in here. I even took out, I had started to put in the plinths and the urns that had been here in the 19th century that had some perennial flowers in them for some color, but I chose not to put those in this version of the plan, thinking we could add those in later if you wanted that to happen. I did leave in this, this granite base here. There's a granite monument here. That's the monument that for Charles Tilton to own the island. There was one monument here that's now missing that I added back, and this is an existing granite monument here, with the thought that if you wanted to do some memorial donations in the park, this is a possibility of a base and a statue. These had some statues on them. Same with the statue down here at the head of the island, which almost reminds me of a figurehead on a boat, which was a nice little feature in the photographs anyway of the park, the previous park. I did remove the existing wooden bridge that's here. And here is where I relocated your existing gazebo a little closer to the front of the park. The only reason I did this is purely for aesthetics. So this whole plan works well if we keep the gazebo exactly where it is. But this, when you come across the bridge, there's a view line when you come across the bridge, and that's why there were so many pictures of that historic gazebo in the park, was because it was literally right on your viewpoint, right on center when you came across the bridge. Here's where all of those native shrubs would go in this lighter green area. And then here's the picnic area here with the grill. You'll see that I've scattered some benches along the pathway, and these symbols here represent the relocated light posts that would be here. I didn't want to put too many in, but enough so that if you did have a concert here and it was starting to get dark, people could safely leave the island and move. And then these smaller trees represent the option for a new overstory canopy of trees, except for these birches down here at this end of the island. So you'll see on the previous plants that I did for you, there are a few trees that I think when the arborists evaluate them are probably going to have to come down for safety reasons. There's some that can be pruned, so we'll keep as many of the existing trees as we can, but just in the long term, thinking about getting another canopy going. There's absolutely nothing sacred about where I put these on the plan. But it's also another possibility. We do a lot with memorial benches and memorial trees at the trustees. And we ask people to not only give the money for the plant or for the bench, but then for some of the care of them over the long term as well. So some of this is something that the community could pay for immediately to do. Some of it is memorial. Some of it could be long term. So I always tell everybody when we put together a master plan like this, that I think about it as a 10 or a 20-year plan, not something that will happen tomorrow, because there's a stage for all of this, and the need to go out and fundraise and find the means to be able to achieve these plans has to be part of that process. And that usually takes 2 or 3 years each time you do a grant cycle to be able to make that happen. So at this point, unless there's some questions about what's on here that I can answer, I truly would love to open it up to all of you for comments. My feeling is that I'll leave this with all of you like I did before, and I'll get as many comments as we can from the public, from you, before I do a final version of this master plan. And then you'll all know that this is a picture vision for where you'd like to go. But the next stage would be that you'd start to think about how this breaks out in phases, what has to happen first, second, and third, and then you'd have to move into construction planning and implementation and those kinds of phases for this. But what the word gaining and what our goal is in this process is to get a graphic picture of where we've agreed we think we'd like to be able to go with the ideas for the island. So at this point, and again, your plan, so all comments are welcome.
Hey, board, do we have any questions for Cindy? Comments? Go ahead, John.
I think one of the things we want to put on the remove invasive species from the entire island. It seems like it's like
Just there.
directed over here, but
Great
there's
point.
a lot down at the point. but
Great point.
Any invasive species. on
That's
the
a
island,
great
yeah.
point. That's a great point.
Looks good. I think the removing of the gazebo, well, it seems to be to get it back to the traditional place, or relocating, I'm sorry. However, right now, the functionality of it is for events and we have a concert series and things like that. And to have it in the middle there we'd
Be like a concert in the round. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy either way. So
and
you
so that
leaving
just
it
my
where,
personal thought that it would
Yep.
be better.
Mhm.
I like the idea of raising it up and possibly painting that.
I didn't know also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, John. Do you know whether there's infrastructure there? Because when I was out on the island, I didn't notice whether bands usually need an electrical outlet.
There's electric.
There's
There
electric,
is. So
yes.
that's another reason to keep it in the same
Probably
place.
should be upgraded a little bit on
Okay.
the island, some upgrading to the electrical system in the underground wiring.
Okay.
But personally, I think whether it's in that location or another location on the island, but definitely to have it offset so that the flattest area can. The other thing was to kind of incorporate more than a lot of birches, not birches, but the maples and the oaks, just because that's two species. And as we know, sometimes things happen and species get wiped out, which would wipe out a major portion.
Okay.
But some more research as to, proper trees that would grow there. And I like the emphasis on the granite block restoration.
Right. Oh, speaking of that, so you'll see these bricks are outlined in red, and then they're outlined in red up here. So the picture that I showed you is this section of the embankment up here, but there's another section down here too that
Yes.
is
Right.
fallen in that needed to be redone. So I was just trying to get some sense, of where the worst of that is.
Right. Cindy, we do have a member of the Hotwell family here that created the concerts umpteen million years ago. So Titus, do you have any comments on the way the gazebo? Oh, do you want my paper, or can you see that?
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
And then this is the smaller one.
As far as the concert series, I agree with John. I think it would be a little bit easier if the gazebo was left either off center someplace, because the area in front of it right now is what we utilize for the 250 to 300 people that attend the concerts. So, correct. Yep. Yeah. I mean, as far as that, you made mention about a few of the, as far as the memorial donations. We basically, as far as me being an extended part of the family, is just looking to try to have as nice of a place for the town and someplace where we can continue to do the concerts. So I don't think that there would be any issue with the newer style lighting if the board agrees with that. I would like to see something that would still look a little bit older, which I think goes with the idea of the past also. But I also can truly understand the idea of a little bit better lighting and hopefully a little, not as much messing up with the environment, so to speak. So as far as the concert series and that, I think your plan is wonderful. There's areas of it that I really don't have reason to make any comments about, and the board will handle that, I'm sure. But I can honestly say from what I've seen, it's a great plan, and it would work well for the concert series, particularly if the gazebo can stay either where it is or, someplace off center. I think where it is elevated would be fine. I will work with that because we have to consider bands getting their equipment up and into it, but we can make that work. And yes, there is power there right now, and it did work at the last time because every year I always made sure that worked and the lights and things like that. So an upgrade would be nice there too if it can be squeezed into the budget and we can work out what we can do. That's all I have. Thank you.
Titus, I'm sorry, Cindy, hold on a minute.
That donation all happened. It's just not on the plaque in the park, and I wanted to add it to the other plan.
I don't have it on me.
Can you just get that to Jeannie for me then? That'd be great.
Sure.
That'd be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's just a little bit, but it's just nice. I couldn't find it anywhere, so it's really nice to have that.
Yeah,
That's great.
I have father-in-law who set this all up at a maid and showed. I will go back and I will try to make sure that you guys have.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cindy, I also wanted to point out that Titus's wife, Allison Hotwell, planted around that gazebo, the existing gazebo, in memory of Alan and Savina Hotwell. So the roses and the plants that you see around there are in memoriam to the family.
Perfect.
So that's what you see around there. So if you're going to move those, if you're going to move the gazebo,
I
those
think
need
we
to be.
leave the gazebo where it is.
Right.
There's lots of good reason, and there's no reason to move it except this one aesthetic one. But for all the reasons between the concerts, the electrical service, and where it is, and I think we can talk about elevating it a little bit or painting it. And if that's the case too, if you have any of those records of what was planted there or what you'd like to see, there's some plants. This memorial garden is located. It's not on this plan because I removed it, but see where this granite bench is? There's a big square garden here. That was another memorial. And so I was just going to consolidate, some of the perennials.
That's Kathy Mitchell's. Barry Snyder, right?
Uh-huh.
This is my wife.
Right. Right.
And if there are any particular plants that are critical to that, that's another good thing for me to know. Perfect.
possible.
But I think also, Cindy, in that mat where you're pointing up where that bench was, Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, the master master gardeners took care of that for a long, long time. Terry Snyder and your group, the master gardeners took care of that for a long time.
We can leave that back in there. So I was again thinking about maintenance and thinking about, the mowing and all of those things that try to make it as easy as possible to make this a success. But it's anything is possible to come and go in this plan. So
Yeah.
that's great. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Pattis. I appreciate your help. Any other comments from the public or online? I can't see who's online because we have the presentation. So if there's anybody online, hearing none, we will move forward. Any other comments from the selectmen? Go ahead.
In particular, the spruce tree is in very, very sad shape, and it's defoliated on most sides of it. I
Yep.
don't think it's worth really saving. We discussed it with the urban forester, and I don't know if anybody else.
Have had trouble, especially with all this crazy weather we've had. Sorry, thank you. So I will take that off of the plan then too. That'll be another one we
As
can.
long as everybody else
Great.
agrees. I think it was-
Great.
All right. Scott, go ahead.
Cindy, just a little bit of minutia, and I was thinking with the lighting, and I think the extending the lighting and having more of it is a fantastic idea. I wonder, not just for my own opinion, is I wonder, we've started some installation of lights at the other end of the street. And what we've done is we've allowed we're able to hang plants on them. So thinking when you were talking about being able to have seasonal plants, maybe that becomes part of the lighting, that on those light poles, we'd be able to hang plants there, which would cover that instead of having another installation to have to put in. But it just, the hanging plants might be a possibility with that lighting. So.
A great idea. I can also tell you in Kennebunk, we redid our downtown. And so there's huge flower beds now, both up and down the downtown, because we were competing with Kennebunkport to bring people to our town. And we had the high school students design flags that hang. So we have potted plants that hang on those light standards during the summer season. But in the winter, we have seasonal flags that were designed by the students at the schools that hang on those, that also give it some color and some life, which makes it really nice. And so that those standard arms aren't vacant then in the wintertime too. Right.
All right.
One of the other
Go
things
ahead.
was, in Tilton was one of the first areas to get actual street lighting and gas lit lights in Tilton. And I think a style that mimics like a gas light would be very nice to, that would also be helpful to incorporate something like that in the sign, or maybe other signs around town. But big thing was that we had gas lights for anybody else.
Pretty fantastic. Pretty great. If there is a standard light fixture, both the light itself and then the pole that you're using in town that you'd like to use here on this island, then if you can get that to me as well, or get it to Jeannie so she can get it to me, that would be really helpful. Great.
Thanks, Cindy.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Cindy, thank you for coming. Okay, next on our list is Brian Colburn, and he is from McFarland Johnson. He's going to present the proposal for Caleb Hill Road engineering study and answer questions. Come on up, right up here. Are you going to do a presentation or just talk about it?
Yeah, I had not prepared a presentation.
Okay. So talk into the mic if you would. Thanks.
So I think you have a copy of our proposal. In general, we worked within the budget that I think was established for this this phase of the project. One aspect that we took advantage of is the recent overlay that was done a few years ago. So, okay, thank you. So we're going to work with the boring contractor to really focus on the areas where pavement is showing distress now, so we can get a good understanding of why that's happening, and not focus as much effort on areas where the pavement is still in pretty good condition. It's likely that the underlying conditions there are in pretty good shape. We do include a public participation phase within our scope, so we'll start off with a listening session, is what we call it. It's a meeting designed for the community and other stakeholders to give us as much information as possible about concerns with the roadway. You know, things like, are people driving too fast? Are there areas where sight distance is limited? Get a good understanding of where there's drainage concerns, both summer drainage and then winter snow melt. And then we take that information back along with the survey information we'll get and the geotechnical, and we'll develop the improvement alternatives. We're envisioning, I think, up to 5 locations along the road where we will investigate in improving the alignment, whether it's the curvature or maybe the profile, to see if we can help out some of the issues we're anticipating hearing about. And then we'll develop cost estimates for those alternatives, and we'll come back and we'll present those at a alternatives workshop, get some feedback on the impacts and cost information, and then coalesce around a preferred alternative that we would present to the board in advance of a town meeting. That's our goal, is to get this done so you guys can make a decision for next year.
Well, Brian, I have a question. You said that you look at some of the road where it's kind of worn in, decomposing, but not necessarily where it's not. And do you have any of the history of the road where the state came in and band-aided a cover up, so to speak?
So part of our scope is to coordinate with DOT to get that information, make sure before we go out and finalize where we're going to investigate under the road that we've got the best understanding we can of where the issues are, and so we can focus on that.
Okay, so you go back to them and figure that out, and then, okay. My worry would be to have that band-aided and then you don't see it, and then you don't know the history of the boulders coming up from the road.
Sure.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little concerned if you say that you're going to have less concern on areas that are in good shape, but that road and that whole area has just issues that all of a sudden pop up. So it may be a less concern, looks in good shape now, but eventually, because of the rocks that are under there, that those are now going to be, once we get the road 10 years from now, will all of a sudden be an area of concern. And we won't have the complete road being of no concerns when we take it over. And that would be a big thing. It's
Particularly the boulders.
Yes.
odd. Who knows what's under some of that road. So it may look good now, but 10 years from now, that might be the new area because it wasn't addressed as good as the other areas that appeared to be bad.
So I don't want to give the impression that we're only looking in very select locations. I mean, the boring program, it's set up for 2 days, so they're going to drill down in as many places as they can in 2 days. They think they can average about 300 to 500 feet, which is, fairly good interval. That's not too far spaced out. You're going to get a good profile of what's under the road.
3 to 5. I see.
Yeah. What I was getting at is understanding where there's been issues is how that spacing gets out. Maybe we do a few clustered at 200-foot intervals in some area and go to the 500
Right.
in some others, but it's not like we're going to skip entire long stretches.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, the Public Works Director has reviewed the scope. We had a meeting before I even put the scope together that, get his concerns. He's really concerned where the ledge is likely close to the road and making sure we get that addressed. So another aspect of the boring program is after we go out with our subcontractor and locate where we're going to have Public Works Director come with us and make sure he thinks, we're getting in his concern spots as well.
Water coming down, there's no ditch.
Yeah, and that's what,
Borings aren't going to show that.
No.
They're not going to tell you. That's a winter issue.
sure. So the borings are designed for us to see if there's weak material under the road or ledge. The point of the listening session meeting is to really get that kind of feedback. I mean, we'll walk the road. Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Will become faster.
Yes. And we would present that in the second public meeting, the alternatives workshop, to really try to make sure people understand that we can make it safe, somewhat safer where you can see farther. But like you're saying, is right.
It's a
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Heavy curves. Take those curves out. School buses.
Will your plan include drainage?
Yes. It's going to be a big part of the cost estimate. Is we'll make sure we're carrying the effort associated with putting in the ditches that are needed along the road. Part of our alternatives workshop, try to give those property owners a sense of what those ditches will look like in their front yards, so they're not surprised in the event the project goes forward. We'll know that after the right-of-way research is done and we understand what the width of the right-of-way is. Some towns don't go and get drainage easements for some of these ditches. That would be up to you to decide at that point. Certainly, we would need temporary rights anytime we're working outside the right-of-way.
But at some point, the road is not the width is not consistent throughout one end all the way down to the other. drainage, widen it a little bit at some point, particularly in the S. Mm-hmm. Well, there's no sidewalk there, but we'll have a whole section of
There's
lawn.
sidewalk on Silver Lake Road from one end to the other, except for where Tom's Salute was.
I know, but
Actually,
I know.
put sidewalk in there, but
right, so Caleb Hill, there's no sidewalk, so what, in essence, they'll be taking lawn. Ditching, right, and that's what I'm saying. Ditching and right of way is what I'm referring to,
it's a right of way.
especially around the S curve.
Silver Lake.
Yep. Any
That's
other,
the one.
any other questions for Brian? Any other questions online? Any other questions from the public here? Thank you.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you coming in and explaining it to us. We look forward to you coming back with
All
them.
right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Board, if you didn't, if you look on the first part of the packet, page 5 of 5 shows their schedule in terms of the dates when they're going to do things. So I didn't know if you had seen that. Or if there is a timeline. Yeah, it's the timeline in terms of when he was talking about it, the alternatives and then the alternatives workshop with the public hearing.
Jeannie, we can either continue with your report or we can ask the chief to come in early. Well, let's continue with your report.
Next item on the action items, the impound lot quotes for the concrete pad. This is for over here at the police
Are
department
you
in the back.
talking into your mic?
Sorry.
Thanks.
Kevin got 3 bids for a 30 by 40 foot, 6-inch slab reinforced with rebar and concrete sealer. Cullen Concrete came in at $11,650. Kearsarge Concrete came in at $11,300 and Bayside at $14,300. And just as a refresher, the proposal from the chief and Kevin and Scott was there as well, is to put down a concrete pad, and then take the fence that's over at DPW now, bring it over here, install it, and Kevin is going to revamp the entrance so that the gate opens all the way up so that you can get vehicles in and out. Then Tim could speak to the security camera. I think there's already a camera there, right? And
Right. There is already a camera viewing the parking lot in the opposite direction. And there is not a second line going to that pole. So we would have to pull a separate line up for a second camera. But it's the right location to look at the projected lot. It would be an infrared camera, so it wouldn't need additional lighting.
And confirm that whether I'm right or wrong here, that the money is coming from the $20,000 from the Belknap County ARPA monies that they're extended to us.
yes, I just want to be clear, it's not ARPA money, but
Oh,
it is,
okay,
it
it's
is the
the-
excess coming from Belknap County to the town of Tilton, the $20,000. And this is to get the impound lot out of the DPW area over here where I think it was originally there was going to be an impound lot behind the PD, so that And if you've been down to the DPW lately, you can see they've made some real progress on the recycle center. But it's getting that impound lot out of DPW over here so that he can do everything he needs to do over there to set that system up.
Thank you,
So
Ginny.
really the question to you is, of the three,
The three bids, board, what's your pleasure?
So I need to know some information before I can determine which one of these prices. Is this a floating slab? Alaskan monolithic floating slab?
it's a 30 by 40 by 6-inch concrete pad, 4,000 pound exterior concrete.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
It is a 30 by 40 foot by 6-inch deep concrete pad, 4,000 pound exterior concrete with saw cuts and sealer. And
I couldn't hear after the 4,000.
With saw
Saw
cuts
cuts and sealer.
Okay.
in sealer.
Okay, so again, if this is a monolithic floating slab, the outside edges are typically at least 12 to 18 inches thick. The interior of the pad is 6 inches. It says here reinforced with rebar. So is that a rebar mat throughout the concrete? Or is it 2 rows of rebar and the thickened edges and wire throughout?
Says rebar mat, number 4 rebar mat.
How many inches on center?
Says 2 foot by 2 foot, number 4 rebar mat.
2 foot by 2 foot on center?
It does not say on center. It says 2 foot by 2 foot, number 4 rebar mat.
Number 4? That's on center. And any of them offered to put fiber mesh in it?
The one from Bayside Concrete says wire mesh.
Says what?
Wire mesh.
Bayside Concrete said wire mesh.
They're 14,300.
They're
14,300 Bayside.
So they've said wire mesh. Did they also say 2 foot by 2 foot rebar?
They actually say 3 feet each way. Reinforced with a grid of rebar spaced 3 feet each way in wire mesh. Bayside Concrete is the company that did.
I know who Bayside is.
No, they are the company who did the recycle center.
They did what?
They did the recycling center.
Yes, I know this. Thank you, though. I still don't understand the specs.
Do you want to see the specs? I know you can't hear, or would you like to see the 3
Do
bids?
you actually have the specifications that the bid was made on?
This is what Kevin handed me. He got 3 quotes. He gave them to me. I have them here. I can give them to you and you can look at them.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. While she's reading that, let's go on to the next one. While she's reading right, let's just go on to the next.
Okay. All right. Tilton Island Park erosion bids. I sent you earlier correspondence regarding the erosion control land reclamation. Prior to soliciting bids, I'd like the board's feedback on what should be bid, i.e. what is the scope of work, so I understand exactly what you're looking for. So if you want to think about it, that's fine. If you know what you want, when I send these bids out, I want to make sure I know exactly what you want.
I would like to restore the blocks, backfill the ones that need to be backfilled. I saw on the proposed island plan that the block, especially at the nose, we'll call it the nose, behind the gazebo, is in terrible shape, and they were looking at extending that around to protect from water current. Now, isn't the state involved in changing the flow of water?
Will be.
potentially, and what
Mhm.
would that do in no matter what we chose? That might not be adequate considering the change in direction of water.
A good question.
Perhaps.
That's a good
Don't
question.
know.
That's where mitigation comes in.
So there's a couple things at hand. We don't know how long it's going to take the state before they get their stuff together to fix our thing. It's been going on for, I know, at least 6 years, 7 years on that
Years.
wall. So the thing is, I think we all agree we want to look historical with utilizing all of the blocks that we have now as much as possible. And the other thing is to prevent further erosion from the bridge. I think we probably realize that the front end, the eastern end, has to be higher because it's washing over. So it may take a little bit of like a workshop utilizing possibly the Conservation Commission, Public Works Director, and some other people to sit down and say, this is what we should be looking for. Or is there an engineer that looked at that or something like that? But I don't think it's we can say this is going to be the fix all. And should we just be looking at setting some of the rocks in place temporarily to prevent further damage or until the state decides to mitigate their issues?
So you don't want her to go out for erosion bids? You do not want Jeannie to go out for erosion bids? You want her to hold off and then have a discussion with different people
We need to
first?
decide, do we want to go and foot this bill and get this all fixed now? Or do we want to temporarily put those rocks back in place or something to prevent further damage and get the state to do some of the work?
The Department of Environmental Services, I was standing right there, told us that we could not put the rocks in place, that we had to have an engineer come out and tell us exactly what to do around that shoreline to prevent erosion.
So
And she at the time suggested, what do they call them? The baskets, the wire baskets with rocks. They're used all
Yeah.
over the place. You see them on the highways. You know, that's what it's coming. But anyway, that's what she suggested at that time. And then the rocks, the granite rocks go out and then you have those baskets. But that's what they wanted.
And
They
so,
didn't want us to tell them. They wanted us to hire someone to tell us, what do we need to do to protect this island?
Okay, go ahead, Jeannie.
and so when I spoke with DES back in 2020, they recommended the hydrologist, Sean Sweeney, I think his name is. He came out and met with me. We walked the island. He did mention those baskets that you're talking about. He So what we were looking for from him at the time when I started the conversation was and I thought that's what this board was looking for, is to get somebody to give us a proposal for an engineering study of what needed to be done. Not actually doing the work, but giving us the sort of like Caleb Hill Road.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We need, yeah.
We have to, yeah.
We need a plan. We need somebody to
Correct.
tell us, what do we need to do to protect that island?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And so maybe it's as simple as erosion control and land reclamation.
Yeah.
yep.
And board, I would say that we mean, I'm going to use the term that we have erosion control in place. As we know, it's not in place, but we have the existing format of the blocks, and it's even shown on the map that we have here. So I think, to me, someone taking a look at that, but also then telling us what else we could do what else we could do in the future to make sure that that doesn't happen again, what we have now, whether it's putting the baskets in. So that sort of plan going forward, that, okay, here's how we can reassemble what we have, but also to try and I'm going to use the term, to mitigate any future major damage. Here's what else you should add in. To me, that would be the best, because that's going to set the island up long term to still be there.
And that was the problem the DES engineer had that day, is because now some of those granite blocks were vandalized, a few
Sure.
of them,
Absolutely.
but the majority of them, she was right, were moved by water.
Yeah.
The power of the water. So that's why she felt that they were really at this point decorative. I mean, those things are as heavy as can be.
Yeah, lifting them would be
I
really
think,
hard.
and I think when we look at it, when we see the historic pictures, I think one of the things that we in this day and age need to remember is that there were dams to the east of that, so the flow was much, much slower. And when the industry left and the dams were opened up and everything, it's changed it completely. And we all know from this spring, et cetera, how powerful water can be. So there had to be floods during times that obviously shifted those stones to where they are today, plus those who decided to push them over when they were out there on the island. But having a plan and an idea of what an engineer and what a group suggests in terms of placing the rocks that we have and then augmenting that with something else to be able to protect that, to be honest, to protect to me, the parts of the island that are already protected by the granite blocks, that would be, I think, the way that we would want to look at it.
The other portion of that is if the DOT changes the flow of the river, it could start flowing more on the Northfield side, which could then start eating away on that side.
Yeah, it could change how it kicks back in
Right.
on that south side. You're right. So
Agree.
We have to, look at the whole picture. But yeah, engineering.
All
We
right.
have to make sure whoever gives us this proposal is aware of DOT's
correct.
plan.
So we would want to have them look at the whole side with the projected possibility that there might be some changes on the south side, which is the Northfield side.
Right.
And what would they suggest if that happens and if the flow shifts on that side?
So does that help your question?
Hydraulics engineer
Yes.
design.
So
We want to keep the blocks as much as possible looking, right? But we want to protect.
right, and the gentleman that I met with a couple years ago felt that the blocks could be put back in place, and again mentioned these baskets. And but at the time, I think in 2020, I'm not sure we knew that DOT was going to be doing what they're saying they're going to do upstream. So, all right, so I should say erosion control, land reclamation.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Good.
Right.
All right. Did you already read that? You satisfied with that?
No.
Okay. What's the issue? I mean,
Well, it tells me it sounds like they're going to build a 6-inch all the way through slab of concrete, which means without those thickened edges, we know what concrete does in the frozen world. So, yeah, no, if I was doing this, I would say no. And I guess I am, but no, it's not, in my 40-year experience of concrete, this is not a floating slab. This is just a 6-inch all the way through. It's like a patio, 6 inches thick.
What do we have now?
What do we have now? We have a concrete floating slab. You have a thickened edge. Like I said,
We have thickened edge now.
it's 12 to 18 inches thick. It should have 2 rows of steel continuous throughout that perimeter. It should have 6x6 number 10 wire mesh all through the slab down into the thickened edge
But
somewhat.
my question is what do we have now?
No,
What
we don't
should
have
we
anything.
have?
That
we
is
don't
what
have
we
anything.
have.
Well, you keep saying, well, we should have this, or
Well,
we
I
should have
didn't,
that.
I didn't make it, but I know who the excavator was. Oh, I know the concrete outfit that did it. So yeah, so that's what's there.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't there the day it was poured. I know what the specifications
Yeah.
were.
Okay.
And that's 6x6 number 10
Over
wire
at the
mesh
highway
throughout
garage.
at the highway garage.
Yeah.
That's what I described to you. I don't know. I can't tell you if it's a 4-inch in the middle or 6 inches. But that inches can vary. So you want a minimum of 4 inches or a minimum of, that's designed for 6 inches, which.
So
Fine.
what do you want to do? What do we want to do with it?
Well, make sure we have the proper thicknesses on the edge and that the mesh and the rebar, we don't want to have any problems with this in 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, you pour a patio back there and in 5 years it's going to be all cracked.
Well, it might not be all cracked. Concrete cracks are caused by the base it sits upon. So if it's not prepared properly, the base that concrete is poured on, it will crack. This, if it's on a prepared base, it will heave. It will move with the earth. A floating slab moves less. It's what you build garages on. It's what you put things of weight on.
So the other one was done properly. We must have specs on the previous one. Wasn't all that long ago.
Jeannie, you have
Send
something
it
to
out
say.
Suggest one or two things. I can ask Kevin to listen to the video, attend the next meeting with answers to those questions, or I can ask Kevin to reach out to Catherine directly, have that conversation to address her concerns or make sure that whoever's bidding on it is bidding appropriately.
I mean, that's some very excellent concrete companies bidding on it, so.
Yeah.
Well, Catherine's expertise in concrete work is certainly not in doubt.
So would you like me to have Kevin reach out to Catherine and have that discussion?
I'm fine
Yeah,
with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm good.
I'm
I would.
available.
I would,
Set up some
Please.
specs
Yeah.
that they,
and then just go back to these three and they can just resubmit it and we meet next week. I don't know if you can get it done by next week
I've
or
learned a
not,
lot
but,
more about concrete in the last 5 minutes. So.
Okay.
right.
And he may have asked him for that. It's just not showing up on these bids.
Well, I would like him to try to get it done by next week
Yep.
because we've got to get moving on this.
Right.
You can
I
call me
agree.
anytime.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so next.
Yes, John Scanlon advised that he's done a lot of work downstairs in the basement on behalf of the first floor. Thank you very much. My headaches have lessened. He worked on a lot down there. So much I couldn't even explain to you, but air quality is much better now. So one of the things he noticed down there was that the old dehumidifier was not in working condition. John, you'll correct me if I'm wrong in that characterization, and he recommended that we get another dehumidifier. And the last one we bought was just a couple months ago because it was recommendation that we have two down there. It was $2,091. So looking for the board to,
the age of it, and also the compressor's running, but it doesn't cool anymore. As you know, a dehumidifier actually air conditions and drips out. Compressor's running, doesn't do anything. All the coils are clean, filters are clean, everything else. The other one's working great. It's flowing water out of it. That one is in where over towards where the police department storage is, and there's a significant amount of walls in between that area and the other area, which is towards the back and the cells, is the one that's failed. And try and get it recharged or something like that costs at least 50% of what you'd pay for a brand new one that lasted us, I'd say 15, 20 years. So
Yep.
I thought,
I'm a yes. Consensus, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
thank you. R&D Paving, one of the unsuccessful bidders for town paving, is requesting an informative meeting with the board. I advised them in the discussion that the bid had already been awarded, so there would be no change to that. But they still wanted to come in and speak with the board and establish a relationship for future work. And my question to the board is, would you like to meet with a representative from R&D Paving?
We always have an open door policy. Anybody that's asked us to come in, we've always said yes to that. But again, we have always had a great relationship with R&D. The only thing that changes was they were not the low bid. So if they wish to come in, then
I don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem, but it doesn't change our great relationship with them already. So if they wish to come in, they can come in. That's my take on it. John, Scott, Joe?
I have
Yeah.
no problem with R&D paving. Their bid was significantly higher.
Yep.
And that's what I based my decision on.
Yep.
I'm right where Joe is.
I mean, maybe I'm missing something that they could explain.
I-
I wouldn't invite them in, but if they came in, I would be
Yeah.
glad to talk to them.
If they're asking to come in, then
As long as they understand it's not to renegotiate this bid.
They understand that.
They
yeah.
do?
Yes.
Very clear?
Yes, I made
Thank
it
you,
very
Jeannie.
clear.
I did watch the video. My question is as a town, do we have, when we put out for the paving bids, do we, especially on our roads, do we have a requirement that the paving outfits that we take bids from are DOT approved? Or not? Just to think, I don't think we do. I couldn't find it.
No.
So because
Do I-
because the one that was chosen is not DOT approved.
It
They do
was.
not have DOT approval.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
Exactly. And I think Kevin would tell you if he were here that going forward, it will be much different when he solicits bids. So,
There's a lot of companies that are not
I know.
approved to do work for the state, whether it's DOT or whoever, because there is quite a lot of hoop jumping to do that. And some companies choose not to.
At the state level, there's hoop jumping.
Well,
Scott, you know. You know. I know you know.
You missed my snarkiness while I was away for a week. So
But while we're on this topic, we're going to make sure that the company we did award the bid to, that we have an agreement with them that is specific to whatever Kevin asked them to bid on,
mhm.
because we had that discussion.
He's
yes.
already met with them.
Good.
New Hampshire,
Always on
are
the
we all
ball.
set with that?
Yes.
So I'll just let them know if they would like to come in. That's their decision, that you're open to it. New Hampshire Public Works Mutual Aid sent us a packet. They're offering communities a free 2-year membership. The membership provides a network of over 150 other New Hampshire communities. The membership does not require us to assist or request aid, but gives us an option to. Probably the biggest benefit is that membership in this organization facilitates FEMA reimbursements if we ever wanted to go that route. I asked Kevin if he was interested in joining. He said yes. I have a copy of the agreement. And I believe I sent you a copy of that. It's not anything you have to sign today if you want to wait till next week. I do have the original on hand for your signature if you decided you wanted to do it tonight. But like I say, there's no hurry.
Only one signature line.
It says in here that there's a copy.
Yeah, well, we
Well,
don't
she
have a
sent it
copy,
to
but
us.
she does.
We can put it up till next
It,
week.
Jeannie sent it to us email.
Oh, I couldn't open those,
All right, then we'll just hold
but I
off.
think that's my computer.
I'll hold off. And do you want me to print out a copy for you, Catherine? You can come pick it up, or I can put it in your mailbox.
Put it in my mailbox, that'd be great, because I'll be in this weekend.
Anyone else need
Thank
a
you,
hard
Jeannie.
copy?
I'll read it online.
Okay.
Good.
On the email.
Okay. Just to update on the Recycle Center project, it's moving along very well. And on Monday, September 18th, there will be what's called a Red Vest Day with volunteers from Lowe's on hand to help paint the building. More details to follow on that. I just wanted to let you know. I did also send out 7 letters on August 21st, inviting law firms to bid on the collective bargaining agreement. The proposals are due September 6th. I have received 2 proposals back already. And then I put in your packet the traditional annual March timeline for 2024. Any questions for me? That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I will text the chief and let him know you're ready.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to the selectmen's reports before he gets here. Catherine?
I'm all set, thank you.
John?
I helped them out at the town hall a little bit for getting rid of some odors and stuff emitting from the basement and paint smells, and ozone and treated the air for many hours and did that. Other thing is I mentioned, I discussed with Jeannie that we presently all the grates for the air conditioner system, the forced hot air, cold air, the grates are all damaged, bent, rusted, old. Some of them, they aren't real rugged and they're in places where somebody would naturally be stepping on them or putting their chair on them. They can be replaced. It can be purchased at Lowe's off the shelf. They're between, depending on the size, between $10 and $20 each. I think there's probably a dozen. And I would suggest that, we go ahead and replace those. And that also allows people to adjust their air conditioning appropriately in their room. Presently, in Jeannie's room, she can't adjust it. It's always on. So she has to put something on top.
My
and
briefcase.
It worked like a damper, her briefcase. So I think, if we can all say, yeah, that's a good idea.
Seriously? You have to put it,
Oh, a lot of them are like that in town hall.
Yeah. So to replace those, I'm willing to do it. If Kevin doesn't want to do it, it's an easy thing. Anybody else can join in with me. We can buy them off the shelf, measure them, and snap them in, and we'll be good.
Sounds
We
like
could-
a good public works project.
Yeah. Well, they have so many things going on. That's why I'm saying it's
Got a
actually
new
pops
employee
in.
too. They could learn where all the stuff is in town hall.
And
Just saying.
in particular, I think like one Jeannie's is right behind where she sits, and her chair's on wheels. That one should be a little more rugged because the other ones are just sheet metal.
Plus my high heels go through the
They're-
grates.
yeah. It's like a bear trap
gotten
or something
stuck.
right now.
it was pretty interesting, particularly
Snagged
Jeannie's
again.
needs to be
Is
a
that the
little
same
bit more
problem with
rugged.
Tim have that same problem?
Well,
So-
it's the chair because the wheels are the chair.
Oh, the wheels of the chair. Oh,
Tim's
excuse.
doesn't go
I didn't
near
hear
there,
that
and
part.
his chair-
Thought we were talking about Tim's high heels.
So that's that. I did some weed whacking and also a little landscape cleanup around the Tilton sign. Trying to make that look nice. Everybody's doing cartwheels over on Morrison Ave. Enjoy. And they're coming right along. Kenny's out there doing his digging.
I will miss the pipes coming to
Yeah.
select board
We're
meeting.
going to send that over to the Historical Society. Say this is the pipes that used to be there.
I don't know if that'll be allowed in the mansion, John. So
That's all I can think of at the moment. Gardens look great. Thanks for
Yeah.
the statue.
Yeah, they do.
Really
Thank you.
brighten them up. No marigolds or what was it?
Those are zinnias.
No.
Oh, the marigold wars.
Yeah, the marigold.
I just want to
remember?
go on record, we didn't plant the sunflowers. For some reason, they come back every year. So I think somebody
Somebody
is just
put 'em
going,
in.
sprinkle.
Yep.
Well, lots of seeds with sunflowers.
I know, but they're
maybe.
different varieties this year.
Oh, well, that's
If
suspicious.
you remember, that's usually the big 6-foot
Yeah,
ones
yeah.
with the giant heads. These are the little ones.
someone's sneaking
So
out there.
somebody's definitely going, blink.
They sell them. People eat them, and maybe
Oh, that could be, maybe they missed a few, but I always thought those went through heat. They're dead.
that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Oh.
Joe, you have anything?
Only that today I
Oh, sorry, Scott. I'm sorry, Scott.
God, who? Only today.
Just a quick heads up for anyone who travels School Street extensively. Next Tuesday is move-in day for the Tilton school, so School Street will be fairly busy. So just it's a little bit different than we've had in the past because the school usually starts on the weekends, but obviously with my connection at the school. So just a heads up for people, School Street, Pillsbury, Prospect, there's going to be a fair amount of traffic in and around that next Tuesday. And the Tilton school students will be back, so the crossing of School Street will increase. That's all I have.
Thank you, Scott. Joe?
I happened to notice, I was at the senior center today out in the back delivering something for Emily, and I noticed that there was a car parked on the footpath.
Yep.
On the do not drive on this road. This is not for cars. Da, da, da. There was a car parked there.
Yep.
Don't know who to contact or whatever, whether that's a police thing or the owner of the building. Is that John Bernard still?
No,
I don't know.
He sold it to the person that owns Awakening Chiropractic.
Okay, well, the easement goes with it, and there's no parking.
They've been told.
Today?
They've been told, not today, but they've been told several times in the last month.
I don't think this was the chiropractor people at all, quite frankly, because they have a parking lot around the other end. That's where I go. They're real. I don't think it was them. I think that it was a person who owns a smoothie bar, which may or may not be a smoothie bar anymore. I don't know, but because it was snugged way down on that end.
That's an interesting question. Who do you call? Is that a police issue? Not public parking, but is it a police issue?
It's not supposed to be on that path at all because it's only a walking path, because DOT, if you remember, said we could only allow a walking path because they couldn't have the sidewalk in the front of
That's right.
the senior center. So we said, what if John
allowed
Bernard
it.
allowed them to create a walking and gave them a little corner of the senior center
Part of
as an
that
easement?
was that no cars were to
No
travel
cars.
that. I
Right.
remember that very specifically.
Because
and we
it's
had
filled in.
bollards.
Correct, because they filled
Actually,
that
Part of it.
hill in to make that walking path,
Mhm.
and it's not allowed to have the weight of a vehicle.
That's
And
correct.
part of it is on Tilton property. We gave an easement over it.
Only a
That
corner of
is
it.
all
Right.
Tilton property. Well, I don't know
No.
where the
Just a
car
portion
was.
of it.
Just
in
a
the
portion
front.
of it,
yeah.
the
But
corner towards the
nevertheless,
parking lot.
Where they
Who would you
accessed
call?
it.
Is that a police? That is a police issue, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. Yep.
There's an easement that prohibits cars. Now I don't.
Police issue.
Park on the sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah,
Walkway.
it's parked on the sidewalk. There you go.
It's parked on a walking path, correct.
So I would say we need to get a copy of the easement with the language in it to the chief, and then have him go and enforce it. Or talk to whoever, because
Right.
I don't think it was a customer. I think it was an employee.
So it'll be back.
You could just barely see the light and from where I was, and I pulled around the back of the building, and as I'm coming back, I'm going, what the hell? And I look, and because it's the bush and stuff growing out, definitely a car, and I'm thinking it was an employee vehicle of some sort.
Right. I agree.
Oh, there's the chief right there.
All right. I will forego my selectman's report until we hear from the chief. So go ahead. Come on up, chief. We'll take you.
So I am here for the chaplain program. I gave everybody the policy that kind of put together a few weeks ago. Everybody's kind of looked over it. But really what it is, the chaplain program, something I've been wanting to kind of incorporate with the police department. When I started in Northfield in 2007, I remember seeing a badge and in the case, and I asked exactly what that was all about, and I was very intrigued and wondered why we did not have the chaplain program. So with everything with officer wellness, and I think everybody's trying to find it.
Yep, thank you.
You send it.
I gave it out.
Yeah, but they
Weeks ago.
purged my,
Oh, did they? Okay. I mean, I have a copy here.
just something like, I'll give it back.
Oh, yeah, I know you will. So really, here you go. Kind of look that over. So, I mean, what it is officer wellness program, and also using the chaplain to kind of help guide. It gives a little bit of a assistance for us as officers. It helps kind of bridge that gap. And I know I've individually talked to everybody. I remember at one point I talked with you, Joe, a while ago about this program, and it's more about just trying to give a little bit of assistance and some help, and maybe another avenue for the officers to maybe talk. We do death notification, things like that. That's not easy for any officer. I don't care if it's somebody that's seasoned or it's a young officer to be able to have to go there and do things like that. And it's nice to have that. Maybe if we go to we have a lot of accidents, maybe something that's severe, serious, and to have someone like that there to, family is en route to our location, and is going to ask them questions. It's nice to have somebody there to help. We don't always have the right things to say, and sometimes to have somebody there to help guide that. So I've always wanted this also to use to be able to come into the police department. Thank you. Come into the police department, drive around with the officers. Officer wants to talk and just talk about some things and open up that. It's great. I know what I had seen last year on August 3rd in Northfield with 2 other officers. And to be in a circle, they do a debrief, and what it is just a group of officers in the CIT program, and that's what Ort just went to, critical incident, and to talk about that. But there's a stigma in police. It's always been there that we got to be macho and tough, and we don't talk about this stuff. I'm trying to break that down. That's why I was there that day, and to sit there with the other officers and talk, and myself too, and come and be open about it. But there's still some officers out there that just, no matter what, they're not going to talk about that. So this gives another option to be able to talk to somebody and open that up, and hope that maybe it can de-stress and help them in any way. So going in the car or out along, kind of seeing what we do, being at events, being able to talk, bridge that gap with people. Maybe people don't want to come and approach the police. It'll be a little bit better. So the gentleman that I've kind of built this around, honestly, I told him that it's one person for now that really kind of grabs me, and he was a football coach. He was at one time the mayor in Franklin. Deacon Thomas Matsky, just a great guy, down to earth, salt, and I think would do really well. And I've already have talks with him before I brought this to you and brought the name up, just because I wanted to make sure that he was good with it before I did that. So I kind of built this and then had him come in, speak to me, and see what he feels, how he feels about it. Check back in, and I said, well, now that you're good, I will still need to pass to the board. So it's not a go. It's I got to have the community and everybody in the board with me. So just hang tight. And he's excited, but also knows how the process goes. He's been in all that. So I just wanted to kind of get your feedback and see if there's anything on here, or kind of start to maybe get this going or build it.
Go ahead, Joe.
What does this cost the town?
Nothing. I mean, it'll cost let's take that back. It'll cost for the windbreaker, a badge that I would keep for, maybe return that, and a police ID, which is $15. I just want something to be able to, and we can, maybe a different option. So if they're on a scene and they're behind the lines, people aren't asking, well, who's this gentleman, or who's this? So other than that, that's it.
That's all the uniform requirements is the breaker?
I came up with, and I looked at a couple other departments, and that's really what they use, is kind of like a police windbreaker. It'll have Tilton Police, chaplain, Tilton Police on the back, and then also, we'll talk about the badge thing, maybe just an ID of some sort, and go from there, because the badge can be expensive, but also what is it? What do you need a badge if you have the windbreaker? You have the ID.
He's not enforcing any laws,
exactly.
is he?
Yeah. No.
Not a sworn officer.
No, he's not a sworn officer. No. So.
And he does this out of the goodness of his heart?
He does, yes.
So which deity is he promoting?
What's that?
Which deity is he promoting?
Well,
And what do you do if you have someone who's an atheist?
Oh, well, the thing is he's not, I don't feel, and he will talk to you a little bit more in depth about that. He's not there to, I think Joe and I talked about, to push any of
Then why a chaplain?
For me, I think that's a good question. I mean,
Well, a chaplain, and I mean, I'm not ashamed I was raised Catholic, but
yeah,
a chaplain is of what denomination? Protestant?
Put it under
I
the umbrella
mean,
of Christianity.
is it universal? Is he, so,
As long as it's non-denominational, I'm fine.
but that's the point. It's not. So what do you do with someone who's an atheist? What do you do with someone who's a Buddhist? What do you do with someone
You
who's a
treat
Native
him,
American?
he's not teaching them religion.
Then why a
He's
chaplain?
comforting people.
Then why a chaplain?
Why not a chaplain?
Why not a psychologist?
He's not a
He's not a
psychologist.
psychologist. He's helping people.
Well, isn't that what
Doesn't-
psychologists do?
Well, he doesn't have a
But
degree
he's not
in
a psychologist.
psychology.
No, he doesn't. What does he have a degree in? Ministry.
I don't even know that.
yeah,
Oh, we
it's a
don't,
deacon.
huh?
So
So we're hiring just a layperson?
We're not hiring
Well, we're
anybody.
having a layperson. So
volunteer, I
we are
mean-
promoting a layperson. We are engaging a layperson to talk to our officers in times of great need,
Yep.
to horrendous accidents.
Yep.
So we are promoting
Counsel.
counsel based on religion. Oh, excuse me. He's a chaplain.
Well,
I'm sorry, he's a chaplain.
I think it's making available as opposed to promoting.
I think it's dangerous.
I disagree.
Then why not a priest?
Call him whatever you
Why
like.
not a
yeah,
minister?
I mean, it was just a person. It was
So then what
deacon.
are his credentials? What are his qualifications?
Well, I don't have the full qualifications for him. I could get that from you, but he's from the St. Gabriel Parish. He is the Diocese of Manchester. He's
He's from the Diocese of Manchester?
yes, and he's ordained in 2014. He is
He's
a deacon.
Catholic.
So
For what?
So religion has nothing to do with this?
No, not necessarily.
Wow.
when you meet,
Oops, I'm sorry, Pat.
so it says, what does being a chaplain mean? Chaplain is a certified clergy member who provides spiritual care for individuals in a non-religious organization rather than a church congregation. Chaplains can work in government roles and serve members of the military in different locations.
it really just gives us that like I said, if you have, it's not even about talking with the officers. Also, it's about going to these scenes, and I've been to a lot of scenes where there's death, and for us to have to make those notifications, it helps to bridge that. It helps to be able to talk in a way and deliver a message in a way that maybe some officers and myself cannot do, and it's not easy.
Some people would be offended by him.
And if they're offended by him, then I'll have them go sit in the car and I'll deal with that situation myself.
I think it's dangerous.
I don't, it's not, and I understand what you're saying, because that was one of the things that people had said to me was the
Unless you're going to
church.
have chaplains, ministers, whatever, of other denominations available.
I think that you'll find in other locations, in other departmental, whether it be police department, fire department, or anybody else, chaplains is a non-denominational term. And that's what they're used for. Listen, and I was brought up Catholic, so
I've experienced them, so I'm sorry. They're not universal. They provide a service, but it's a religious service.
it's a spiritual
I think
service.
it's more
some
available to
people
somebody
aren't
that they didn't
spiritual.
want somebody.
They want that.
if
Some
they-
people believe they came out of the
And
slime
it's
pool.
available.
But they're
and
only
he's
there
volunteering.
for available. They're only there if people don't want it, they don't need to have it. It's there for the people that want it. That the availability is there. It's a service for them. It's just there. It's another thing. It's just like it's going to be there. It's a program that's available for the police officers
But we're
in need.
endorsing it.
How
It's
does
not
the
like-
officers feel?
They like it. They've met him when he came in that day. He said hello. There's nobody that I felt
He's a
that
very nice
is
fellow.
negative or
Mhm.
against it. I feel like it's across the board. There's no issues at all. I just brought it up to actually the prosecutor and also the detective also to make sure. And
And they haven't met him,
they have not met him, no.
right? But they
No,
thought it
but
was a
they
good
know I've
idea.
kind of explained the situation of what
Yep.
I was thinking about tonight.
And they were okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm here to speak about it. This is good that we're having a discussion because these are the questions I want. I mean, if I walk up to a scene or we're at a scene and the family's on their way there, just so you know, the family's on the way and mom is okay. I'm trying to control the scene. I got Channel 9 up on the hillside. I have officers everywhere. We're trying to do some things. It's a lot of traffic. Things are going on. It's nice to be able to say, hey, I'm going to walk over. And if that time, let's say you show up and you're like, nope, I'm all set. You'll nicely go to the other, walk away and I will address. I don't want it to feel like that. I think it maybe be a low percentage that would happen, but you definitely will. I mean, I think it's like anything. You have to adapt and over. I just feel like there's more of a benefit than there is as a negative, in that little piece. There's so
What
much.
experience does he have in doing this?
Oh, not on being a chaplain, as in a police officer? No, there's not many, so that he wouldn't have any experience of doing this. He has experience of talking to the community, being involved in the community. He was the one doing the hot dog stand
Yeah.
all the time downtown. You'd see him out there. He is just a
Wasn't
community
that
person.
Dan Vinyl?
No, he was with the church doing it, right? Anyways.
Oh no, he
thanks,
was
Joe.
popcorn and whatnot.
Thanks for lightening it up a little bit here.
And the other thought is also to somehow compile a list of other representatives from other religions
Yeah.
that you'd have available,
Yeah.
Or kept at dispatch, that if somebody requested and said, no, I'm such and such, and if there was someone there I'd like to talk to him, that you could,
Yeah.
call up and say.
Yeah, and the other operational guidelines, number one is the police department would appoint chaplains if that's the discussion we're have, and the current chaplains are listed by name and phone number. If that's something, it's new. It's a new. Guilford Police Department does have it. I know Sergeant Salmon and Jordan Officer Smith have talked about it. They said it worked really well. It was nice to have. He would walk into the PD and just, hey, how's things going, and just have a dialogue and have a talk. I mean, how many times we're going to use them? I'm hoping not much. I'm hoping we don't have too many deaths and
Right.
too many big bad accidents, but it's just that another resource to be able to use and have. And if I do feel like it's not working and it's not going that way, I'm obviously going to adapt and try to figure that out and see how we can make it better, or just do away with the program altogether if it doesn't work. That's not really what I want to do, but this is new to me, but I can't do anything if I don't try, or at least look into it and have these discussions about it. Right. I mean,
Right.
so
I'm a yes.
All right.
what are you thinking, Scott?
No, do you really want to know?
Yeah.
No. So, historically, the use of chaplains in the United States military was to have that ability to have a non-denominational ear there when soldiers wanted to do that, to also, for those Catholic and Christian soldiers, that if they passed away, they could, give them their last rites as well. But, historically, in terms of the U.S. military use, it was someone for soldiers to be able to use as, an appropriate sounding board, not a denominational thing out of it, but their purpose, because, for a long time, the majority of soldiers who were in the United States military were Christian, is that they could give them their last rites, et cetera. So I think, to me, especially with what you identified before as the hardened mentality, to be able to have someone as a sounding board that's not, that's not directly in line to be there, I don't see it as a negative at all.
I think you should have options.
Okay.
We're not all Christians in this
Yeah.
melting pot.
Right.
We've become many denominations and many not.
Non-denominations, yeah, absolutely.
I'm for the chaplain, and also having a list of other denominations available. somebody wishes. And they,
I'm a no, but
especially now with, there's a lot of people have immigrated from the United States. There's a lot of really difficult things happening in the world, and a lot of people have moved here from other countries and have other religious beliefs, and that we want to be able to also serve them and have that available. Predominantly, most are Christian or atheists or non-denominational type people right now, but that is changing. So I think if we go with the chaplain, but have a list available and make sure that
Maybe that's something that he could do.
he could also do that.
That he could have that,
Reach out.
because he'll have connections across religions more than likely. That maybe that's something that he can sort of put together and provide
Maybe.
us. So maybe.
I'd like you guys to at least meet Tom, and some of these questions that would be perfect for down his alley. I mean, he can take it. I know he can.
We'll
So
let Catherine go first.
regardless, you're going to have a long talk with this person.
Before they should warm him up or just right to the fire.
No.
Send him right to the
he
fire.
knows. He knows. He's
Right
been
to the
he's been around
fire.
the block. Come
I'll be
on.
ready.
Abe, in case you want to know, I'm a yes. Because you didn't ask me.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's true, but I
okay.
just felt like you guys were.
Oh,
Chair, you're good.
yeah, I'm
You're
good.
Okay. All
I'm good.
right.
Okay.
I'm good.
Any other questions for the chief?
So he can
You have
go
anything for
forward
us?
with this, correct?
Yes. Yeah, because we have a lot of yeses. Yes, absolutely.
But I will
We have one
yes.
no.
bring him in. I want him to meet you guys. I want these questions to be brought, and then we can open that
Yep.
for looking at. Does that sound good?
Oh, dear.
It does, but you're not going to change my mind.
No, but I want to meet a middle ground. I don't want a yes out of you, but I at least want to say, okay. And when you
Of
go to
course.
tell other people in the community about this, that
Anything you
it's-
need.
Okay.
You're not going to get a yes out of her, so.
I know.
doesn't matter.
I'm willing to at
I
least
think he
meet.
knows me
I'm not
well
going to
He
just
enough.
knows
turn around,
that.
but I'm also not just going to turn around on a yes, even though she was a no, and someone else, and just walk away with that.
Stranger things have happened.
I promise I won't bite.
I
Hard,
promise.
sort of.
Just tell him to bring hot dogs out to the parking lot. and
No,
We'll be all
he's
set.
done with the hot dogs.
They better be scone
I
ones.
know, but he's
Yeah, I
still.
know that's. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
scrolling
no
right too,
questions
so.
about rebar either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Now you were saying something, Joe, real
No
quick
yellow
about
mustard.
something when I walked in. Are you good?
There was a car parked today, right behind the senior center. There's a
Yep.
footpath.
Oh,
Used to
okay.
have bollards on it and
Yep.
whatever, and it doesn't anymore. There was a car parked
Oh, really?
on the east side,
Yes,
east
I knew
end of
about
it,
this.
snugged right behind the bushes and stuff, but definitely on the path.
Okay.
That
Yep.
path, part of it, like where it curves around
I was aware of that.
the senior center, belongs to Tilton,
Yes.
but the other end belongs to whoever it belongs to.
Down in front.
They can't drive a car on that path by the easement.
It's
Almost
not
like
a
shared driveway.
roadway.
It's not a
So to
roadway.
No.
To give you
Yeah.
a little history, Chief,
Mm-hmm.
when Awakening Chiropractic went in, with John Bernard owned it, they wanted to put, when they put the parking lot on the other side of the senior center, they wanted to walk in front of the senior center. DOT wouldn't allow them, so we gave them a little portion of the easement of ours, and then he, in the back, and built up, and he filled in the drop-off to make a walking path only. Walking path. And it was never, ever intended, and it was backfilled, and that's why it's not strong enough to hold a car.
Okay.
It's backfilled only to walking path only from one end to the other, so that when they park over the opposite side of the outbuilding over to Awakening Chiropractic, it's just walking, just
Okay.
so that they wouldn't have to walk in front of Grange Road.
Yep.
And
I'll check
because
that out
there's no,
personally, just so I can kind of get an idea what the layout is too.
yeah,
So, and I'll
this
make a-
is,
You
it's
can see the tire marks.
Oh,
that
it was? Okay,
They've been
good.
driving on it.
It's
yeah.
been,
I'll make
it's,
contact with them
they've
and
been
figure out.
spoken to maybe 3-4 times in the last month.
Okay. And we had 3 people parking tickets on School Street about that. And then that
Next
issue
to Long
over
Car?
on Lot H. I just went by today. They're there. So I'm going to go make contact. We've made
Good.
contact. And I think someone was just confused about the dirt portion of the town and the paved. but it's not a parking.
I
those are not
explained that
parking
after I
spots.
talked to Noelle. She
Okay,
was
perfect.
spot on.
Okay,
Perfect.
good. I did see him over
Absolutely
there,
excellent.
and so I'm gonna make contact with the duties on, and we're gonna fix.
I let the tenant know that
Okay,
exactly what Noelle told me.
Thanks.
good, thank you.
Might
See
want
you
to
in a
check
couple
the
hours.
dent out in that Indian that's out front.
Stop that.
Oh, the one that's lying on the side?
Oh,
No, it wasn't. I picked it up.
Do you put it,
I
that-
picked it up.
is that the one that we had to
that I'm
stand
not
back
worried
up?
about.
Yeah, we-
Talking about dents on it.
Well, you've got it propped up pretty well now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was 3 of us to
Okay.
lift that thing up. after
Those
I
cinder
got it.
blocks are working well.
Yep. Let's get back to
Glad I brought
business. Selectmen's reports. Pat, you're up. On September 16th, it is the annual Vicky Virgin Food Drive from 9 to 3. The Congregational Church, Nancy Wilson, will be heading that up with all her helpers. So they'll be running it. It must be at least 10 years now, right? Yep. And I want a shout out to the Tilton School. Thank you very much again. Another year up at letting us use the amphitheater for the concerts series. Although it wasn't not a pleasant year for concerts with all of the rain, still thank you for having us up there one more year. Catherine, this is to address your email regarding the website. You wanted it on your, and we did some checking. And so Catherine had a question, and I had a question as well on the left-hand side of the website where you clicked on maps, tax maps. It was removed. And then the only thing on the GIS mapping, and we said, who has the authority to do that? Take it off, and it wasn't there. Well, it was removed and put back, and the reason why it was removed was because they removed it. It was 2018 mapping, and they put the 2022 map system on it. Now it's back up and running. So it is back up on the website. The GIS mapping is still up there, and I'm still yet to learn it, but it's up there.
On
So I hope that helps you answer that question.
Well, my question more was policy. Just,
Okay.
I mean, I left, it came back, and things changed. So my question was, when I was here before, the Board of Selectmen pretty well determined what came on and off the website. And I want to know if that policy has changed, so I'm on the right path. Because it's still the Board of Selectmen that determines what goes on or off the website.
We haven't changed any policies. It's pretty
Okay.
much.
I just don't
What?
want to be on the back path.
Uh-oh, he's got something to say.
Well, I don't think there was not a written policy.
No.
It was more of a practice.
Right.
But if there's something that's inaccurate, we often will take it down until we have what is accurate, to put back up. So
Well,
that
you've
happens
always been
sometimes.
very good about that.
Yeah, like a document gets posted and then someone realizes, oh, that's the wrong version, so sometimes it's up there for a day or 2 days, and then, it takes a lot of eyes to, see what's what. So there wasn't any particular policy, Selectmen's policy, but it's been the practice, and, by and large, there haven't been any major changes without bringing that forward first and reviewing.
I can tell you there's a lot of happy people that it's back. The zoning maps.
Just a quick one. The details link on the agendas and calendar page, the main one, details, and then it says add to my calendar. There's 2 things. The details link is sending you somewhere else, sends you to your own personal calendar.
So that's a Google thing that then you can add it, add that to your
Well, there's two
calendar.
links. One says details, calendar. So if you look and click on that on your phone, you can try it out and see if it happens.
I will. The other thing is if you look in the calendar, you'll now see under all the boards and commissions that have calendar entries that there's links to the live meeting. So if someone opens up the calendar, clicks on the meeting, they'll see the live meeting. They'll see a link to the current agenda, and it'll open up the current agenda. They'll see a link to the boards page, which includes the minutes and videos. And for the Conservation Commission, it also includes a link to the Conservation Commission's website. And that's all within all the repeating calendar entries.
It's not working. If you go to the Selectmen's meeting, and then there's two links at the bottom. One says add to my calendar, and then to the left of it, there's one that says the details.
So I'll take a look, but I beg, but if you look today, if you look at any of the following Selectmen's meetings, you'll see the detail of what I just described, links to all those things, links to the current agenda within the calendar entry, links to the Selectmen's page, which has all the minutes and videos, and links to the meeting itself here. So if someone was looking at the calendar, oh, they're meeting right now, click on it and it'll open up
So it
GoToMeeting.
just did now, Selectmen, and there's two links. There's one that says more details, and the other link is copy to my calendar.
And which is not working for you?
More details. If you click on that,
That's a Google thing.
Mr. Langione appears to have his hand raised on the computer up there. I don't know what that is, but.
Can we have this lesson later? Is it possible we can have that lesson later? Thanks. All right. Nate, I see your hand raised for some reason. Do you have a question? No. Okay. I'm going to continue. We need to set a date for Halloween. Last Friday in October is the 27th. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Sound good, everyone?
When is Tanger Outlet? 27th.
Friday. They're Friday. We're Saturday, correct? Are we having it the Friday too?
So theirs is on a Friday, and historically, I think that Tilton's has been on a Saturday. In the last 2 years, you've done it on Friday. I believe that you saw more participation, I think, which is why you switched it to a Friday. But I believe in the past, it's always been on a Saturday, but for the last 2 years, it's been on a Friday. At least 2
Tanger
years.
Outlet's a pretty big thing for the kids because all the stores participate. And so if we're trying to get kids, it would seem as though Friday would, or the opposite day from.
Well, so I think that they go there for that, and then they come downtown because it's on the same day. But
Friday, and then just find out the timing from Tanger as to when they're doing theirs.
Coordinated.
Yeah.
We have a
It's
lot
not
of.
that it couldn't overlap, but we could always go a little bit longer.
and that's what the adjustment was last year. There was an adjustment to the time.
No, we're still going to ask the Rotary to had Rotary in, I think it was PTA that had the trunk or treaters that got it together, and then we would do the prizes for the best costume and so on and so forth.
Right.
Then we'd get.
I assume you want to do what you've done in the last
Yeah.
few years. That
Yeah,
nothing
I
has
think so.
changed.
We just need to have it, like Scott said, just a little bit later because once they go to Tanger, I think Tanger's is a little bit earlier. And once they go to Tanger's, then they can come to us, and then they'll go Thursday, the regular 30th, not Thursday, 30th is the trick or treat night for us in town. Or 31st. What? What? Oh, for his teachable moment?
Go to the 17th. It's because this.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
So 27th it is, everyone?
Yes.
No, we'll just work out the details after. Okay, great. All right. Is there any more business to come before us in a public meeting? Any questions? Chief, you're online. Did you get the 27th as Halloween for us? Downtown Halloween? Hear nothing from the chief, so that must be a yes.
There looks like a hands
Yeah.
up.
I've got hands up.
Oh, hands up. Got it. All right. Okay. The time
No,
being,
I'm sorry, just clarification, Nate has his hand up.
I've asked him already.
Oh,
It-
okay.
That's again, Casey
No, we
stepped
can't
out.
hear you, Nate.
Oh,
Nate,
just popped
if
back
you're
up again.
trying to ask us a question, now's the time to ask the question. We're going into non-public.
Is the volume on for it?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing him.
You turn his mic on?
Turn it on. I sent him an unmute request.
He did send a email. He had done a survey of his
Says I
line.
think our audio is off. He's
there any-
texting us.
Are there questions up on the discussion thing?
We can't hear you, so type your question.
Said our audio is off.
I think your audio is off. Timothy?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry about that. Yes, so I was wondering if we required companies who do paving for the town to ID tag their work. So if there's issues in the future, it's easy to identify and have it rectified.
Yes. The answer to that question is yes. So, are
Okay,
you
thank you.
asking if there's a clause in the contract?
I was just curious because I know it was done in Boston, but I wasn't sure if it was done here, and it just came up in discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. We make sure of that. Do you have any other questions for us, Nate?
Nope, that was all. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
sorry you had to wait so long to get that question answered. Okay. Also, we did, the Parks Commission received your letter, email, and I'm part of that for the lot line, your survey, which includes a bit of the line for the fencing,
Appears to,
appears to. He had it surveyed, appears to, the part of the fencing appears to be on his property,
maybe.
maybe. I should,
Yes, and I believe that's just due to when it was hit by the plow, things shifted, and so now it's uh, not straight as it used to be.
so I want to just correct you there. It wasn't really hit by a plow. It was a motor vehicle accident that was a few years ago, coming off the Cedar Street.
Two different areas.
Okay. Oh, in the accident on Main Street?
I think Nate might be referring to the borderline of his property.
The back fence.
The back fence is the tree that's coming out, pushing it into his property.
The whole length.
Right.
Yeah.
He has pictures of it, right?
Yeah, well, it,
Right.
it zigzags a lot of ways now for a couple of reasons.
Right, okay. Okey doke. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The time being 7:04, I make a motion, we move into non-public, per 91A:3, 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a public meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted.
Jessamine, second.
I have a motion in a second. Roll call vote.
Jessamine, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Constantino, yes. We are now in non-public.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the August 31st, 2023, I'm tired, because disclosure would adversely affect the reputation of a person other than a member of the board permanently.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now it says new business, Jeannie's report. No, oh, sorry, no, you already did it. I know, I was just kidding. You were bent over and I was just
New
wanted to
I
business.
have one thing.
get
Motion to
Joe.
adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Anybody else have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. His second wasn't good enough.
We gotta have a